Christmas. It's only 10 days away. I think one of the things that endears us to Christmas is the characters of Christmas. Let's look at a few of them. There's this guy. Help me out. Who is this? It's Frosty, right? Frosty the Snowman, thumpity thump thumping over the hills of snow. And how about this? Who's this one? It's Rudolph, right? Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer. Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide my sleigh tonight? And we can't forget about this, right? Who's this? Well, Santa. Well, this is actually Santa on a good day. This is Santa on a bad day. But we're not here gathered this morning because of Frosty or Rudolph or Santa. We're here because of, these guys. Right? Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, Jesus in the manger. But it's not just those guys. The story of Christmas, there's more than that. There is a character in the story of Christmas that often gets overlooked. Not today. Luke chapter 2, verse 25, we encounter him. It tells us this. Now, there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout. Simeon, ever heard of this guy Simeon? See, Simeon, he doesn't make the Christmas carols, and he doesn't make the Christmas services. Simeon, he's not in the nativity set, but he's at the original Christmas. See, 40 days after Jesus was born, Mary and Joseph, they go to the temple and they dedicate Jesus, and there's this old man there by the name of Simeon. He takes Jesus in his arms and declares this, verse 29, "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of your people Israel." And the next verse adds this, verse 33, "The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him." I bet they did. Anybody ever say anything like that about you when you were a baby? Not me. And my wife, Sarah, and I, we've had 3 kids, and every now and then someone would say, "Oh, how cute, what a beautiful baby." But not once did anyone ever say, "I have been waiting my entire life to see this child. I can now die happy." That's Simeon. Well, when I encounter Simeon in the Bible, here's the question that comes up for me. I think, well, why? Why was Simeon, why was he so fired up? Why was this such a big deal to him? See, before that moment of meeting Jesus, he had spent decades doing this. Verse 25, "Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout." He was waiting. He was waiting. And Luke, he's going to go on and tell us specifically what it was that Simeon was waiting for. But before we get to that, I want to pause right here. He was waiting. Because I wonder, can you relate to Simeon? Is there anything in your life that you're waiting for? Is there anything that you want, you really, really want it, but you don't have it? And I'm not just talking about things that go on a Christmas list. I'm talking about bigger things. I'm talking about deeper things. Well, what are you waiting for? Clarity regarding a decision? Or a pain to go away? Maybe a +1. Or perhaps you're waiting for a situation, a job situation to change, or you're waiting for a wayward child to turn to the Lord. Maybe there's an anxiety that is in you and you're just waiting for that to disappear. Maybe you're waiting for your body to heal. Maybe you're waiting for a relationship to finally be reconciled. Waiting. I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly good at waiting. Today we have things like fast food. For the first time in the history of humanity, people have access to food, not because of how nutritious it is, or because of how much it costs, but simply because we can get it fast. Now, a couple decades ago, if you wanted to have fast food, here's the way it worked. You would go to the restaurant, and you'd go up to the counter, and you'd place your order, then you'd wait for your order to come, and when your order came, then you would go and you would sit down at a table in that restaurant. Not fast enough. So we invented the drive-through. Right, today, you can eat an entire meal in your car just as God designed us to do. Isn't that great? And it's not just fast food. We have a whole lot of these conveniences. We have overnight shipping. We have on-demand streaming. We have self-checkout. We have instant messages. And since it takes too long to type out the entire word, we have a whole new abbreviated dictionary, right? So that we can make it go ASAP. Verse 25. Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout. He was waiting. See, Luke, he makes sure that we know Simeon was righteous and devout. In other words, he's saying this guy, he wasn't doing anything wrong. The reason that he didn't have what he wanted, it wasn't because of some kind of moral failure on his part. Simeon was righteous and this guy was devout, but he was still waiting for God to provide. Well, every day, day after day after day, Simeon, he went to the temple. And he's thinking, hey, Lord, is today going to be the day? Is today going to be the day? Well, days turned into months, and months turned into years. Has the time come yet? Not yet. Waiting. The other day I was at the doctor's office and I check in at the counter. Any guesses where the receptionist told me to go? The waiting room. There's this big room that's designed just for waiting. And nobody volunteers to go to the waiting room. Here's one person that you will not see in the waiting room: the doctor. I have never, not even once, been there, and the receptionist says, oh, welcome, we're so glad you're here. Come on in. The doctor is in the waiting room waiting for you. Never happened, probably never will. Waiting. I don't like waiting. Why? Well, I think when I dig a little deeper, saying, well, why don't I like that? Why do I find that bothersome? I think one of the reasons I don't like waiting is because waiting shows me I'm not that important. This world does not revolve around me. And maybe worse yet, waiting reminds me I'm not the one in control. Luke chapter 2, verse 25. Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon who was righteous and devout. He was waiting. Impatience. I think about that and I think, well, impatience is not really that big of a deal. It's not really that horrible of a thing. It's just a minor, trivial thing. But I think Simeon shows us it's not. Impatience, it can cause us to live a self-absorbed, superficial life. Impatience, it will mess up my relationships. Impatience, it will erode my inner peace. Patience, it will twist my decision-making. I'll start thinking things like, well, I don't want to stay on this budget. Well, I don't want to work on this assignment. I don't want to wait until the situation is right. I don't want to put in the time. And impatience, it will also hijack your relationship with God. See, here's the thing with God. We may not be very patient, but God, He sure is. God does some of His best, deepest work in seasons of waiting. Seasons that are designed to shape our character and to give us depth. Waiting isn't just something that we do until we get what we want. Waiting is the process God uses to shape us into the people he wants. James puts that this way. James 1 verse 2 says, "Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete." Anybody want to be spiritually mature? Well, James, he's saying here, that's not going to happen when you get everything that you want. You want to be spiritually mature? James teaches, well, that's not going to happen when you have all the answers to all your questions. You want to be spiritually mature? James says, well, that doesn't happen when life goes according to our time frame. Waiting, not getting what we want when we want it, that is a classroom that God uses to shape us and to form us into the people that he knows that we can be. God has this tendency to work in us before he works through us. I don't like to wait, but Simeon shows us, well, waiting, it can be good for us. Luke chapter 2, the origin of Christmas, Simeon was waiting. Well, what was he waiting for? Do you know how the story goes? The passage continues. Verse 25, "Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon who was righteous and devout. He was waiting for the consolation of Israel." Well, consolation. See, that's not a word that we use a lot anymore, but it is a word that is found in some of the songs that we sing this time of year, like this one. "Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free, Israel's hope and consolation." There it is. Only when we sing it, we add a few more syllables to it. But consolation, what does that mean? It's consolation, or to console. It means to alleviate grief or pain or loss. Consolation. What does that have to do with Christmas? Consolation. Why is that word in the story of Christmas? Consolation. Well, what is Simeon? What's he talking about? Well, this word, consolation, and this concept, consolation, it's not actually original to Simeon. See, Simeon, he got it from the Old Testament prophet Isaiah, who foretold a Messiah is going to come. Here's what Isaiah said about the Messiah. It's Isaiah 40 verse 1. It says, "Comfort, comfort my people, says your God. Speak tenderly to Jerusalem and proclaim to her that her hard service has been completed." Simeon, he was waiting for that. Isaiah chapter 40 verse 1, Simeon, he was listening to that. The consolation of Israel, well, that was this idea that God was going to send someone who would right all that was wrong in their world. And God made a promise to Simeon that he would live to see this Savior. Verse 26. Simeon says, "It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not die before he had seen the Lord's Messiah." When Simeon laid his eyes on Jesus, the Holy Spirit moved him. He knew, and he proclaimed these words, verse 29, "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace, for my eyes have seen your salvation." Well, that's a celebration. Simeon, he's pretty excited about this, but before we just kind of glibly say, "Yay, happy for Simeon," we need to think about this for a moment. Think about Simeon's situation. Seems to me like Simeon's situation and the problems that they were experiencing, they didn't go away. Caesar Augustus, he was still on the throne. Herod, he was still the regional governor. Quirinius, that guy, he was still the governor. Injustice was still rampant. Violence, it was still prevalent. The people of God, they were still suffering. So what's changed? What's different now? Just this baby. Just that. Only that. Have you ever encountered this story of Christmas and thought something along the lines of, I appreciate the sentiment, and I appreciate the romanticism, and I appreciate the nostalgia of that story, but I live in the real world. I live in the world where there are problems and challenges, where there are hurts and there are pains. I've got marriage tension, or I've got financial tension, or I've got occupational tension. I've got health issues, or I've got parenting issues, or I've got regrets about yesterday, and I've got fears about tomorrow. How does a baby that was born 2,000 years ago bring peace on earth and great joy to me here today? Well, I think Jesus himself addressed that. He said these words as he got older. Jesus said, it's John 16:33, he said, "In this world you will have trouble." Is that true? Is that your experience? Because it sure is mine. This world is not the way that God originally designed it to be. Something has gone wrong. Something is broken. And I think we all probably intuitively know this. All we have to do is look around, see the things that are happening in our world and say, something's not right. Something is off. The word the Bible uses to explain this, the word is sin. And you've heard that word in a lot of contexts, but the Bible teaches that on a global level, that is the source of war and injustice and corruption and violence and abuse and prejudice and all our social ills. And on a personal level, that's also the source of shame and regret and discouragement and fear and anxiety and worry. Christmas. The story of Christmas. The story of Christmas is the story of a God who loves so much that he left the glory, he left the beauty of heaven for a manger in a barn. Well, why? Well, why would he do that? Not to sit on a throne and tell us what to do. I think that's probably the way we'd write this story, but he didn't do it for that reason. Rather, he did it to sacrifice his life on a cross, to forgive us for what we've done through Christmas. Through Jesus. Here's the message that God is saying. Through Christmas, God is saying to us, well, I know you're not perfect. I know that. I know you've messed up. I know you've made mistakes. But I'm not throwing you out. I'm not leaving you. I'm not abandoning you. I'm not giving up on you. I'm not quitting on you. I love you. God says, I still love you, and I want a close relationship with you. See, Christmas, at its center, the story of Christmas declares the God of all creation knows you. The God of all creation cares about you, and he offers something. He offers to forgive you, and he offers to lead you, and he offers to guide you, and he offers to comfort you, to bring you good news of great joy. And that's not all. After proclaiming the consolation of Israel, Isaiah, he wasn't done yet. The prophet Isaiah, he goes on to tell us a little bit about what this Messiah would someday do for this world. It's Isaiah 9, verses 6 through 7. I'm going to read it, and I'm also going to guess you've heard this. This is a very familiar passage in the Bible when it comes to Christmas. I'm going to encourage you as you hear this to think, what do these words, what do they actually mean? What's God telling us? What's he teaching us in this passage? Here it is, Isaiah 9, verse 6 and 7. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice and righteousness from that time on and forever. What's Isaiah saying? What's God telling us in this passage? He's telling us this. He's telling us a day is coming that has not yet come. Today, we can experience part of this consolation, but someday, we will be able to experience this in full. A day is coming. A day is coming. A day is coming when the Lord will right all that is wrong in this world. No more evil, no more fear, no more pain, no more sin, no more sickness, no more disease, no more injustice, no more starving children, no more domestic abuse, no more terrorism. Everyone who's sick, they will be healed fully, entirely, completely. All of the sicknesses and illnesses gone. And there will be the people who are weary. They will be renewed fully, completely. Those who are broken, well, we will all be made whole. Those who are depressed, we will be filled with a great and lasting joy. That's what's coming. That's what Isaiah is talking about. Luke chapter 2, verse 25. Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout. He was waiting for the consolation of Israel. Now I think we should include Simeon in the Christmas story, because Simeon reminds us that even on that very first Christmas, Jesus was born, but Herod was still on the throne. So, what is it that happened at Christmas? What was born? Hope. Hope. Christmas, it was then and it still is today, a season of hope. The original Christmas, it wasn't idyllic, but it was filled with great hope. Hope that there would be a better day. Hope that there would be a brighter tomorrow. Hope that there's a greater plan. Hope that there's a bigger purpose. Hope that there is a God and that He is good. Hope that He knows and hope that He cares. Hope that He has not given up. Hope that He has not called it quits. Hope that God can still turn things around. Hope that there will be justice. Hope that there will be reconciliation. Hope that there will be peace. Hope that we will be reunited with those we love and that we miss. Hope that we will be healed and that we will be made whole. Hope that all will be as it should be. Hope. Do you need any of that today? Because Christmas shows us and Christmas promises us God has, and someday He will.